Be yourself as close to 100% of the time as you can. And here's the incredible thing that ends up happening. The only people in your life are the people who like you because everybody else fucking left. Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets Podcast. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe. I am really excited to be here with you today, and I'm not even going to give away really what we talk about in this episode because I think it's so powerful. I'll just say it this way. We've got Jessica Jeboult from Sober Girls Guide, which is a really cool feature and a really cool Instagram account, a very cool methodology and company that's been focused on helping women understand like what to do when you put down the drinking. And that's all beautiful and it's great. I've talked to Jessica before. I consider her a friend. She's moved back up to Canada, and so we don't see her a lot. She's in the middle of a heat wave, so excuse her as she's wrapping herself in AC during this thing. But you know my view on shame, right? F shame, fuck shame. Sorry if you've got kids in the car. Hopefully we'll have a disclaimer about that. But I think it is not an overstatement to say that what we get in this episode is we get to take a person who is already in recovery. She's already sober. Dive into, reveal, identify, and then work through a good bit of how shame drove her to even have the drug and alcohol problems that she figured out she needed to recover from. And the reason I think this is so powerful is Jessica's doing this now in sobriety, and that's great and amazing for Jessica. And I really do want to thank her for being willing to be that transparent and honest and fragile and vulnerable right here live with us. But here's the message for all of you. Each one of you can go through the exact process Jessica just goes through in the next hour here on your own, whether you're already ready to quit or whether you want to quit, whether you want to moderate, whether you want to smoke weed and not drink. I don't care what the combination is for you. It's the work we're talking about in this episode that matters more than anything else. So that's what I want you to focus on. That's what I want you to pay attention to. Go ahead, listen to this. It's going to blow your mind. Hey guys, to be radically transparent, we drink mindfully.
Just like with the food we eat, we are extremely mindful of the drinks that we consume.
We also drink tons of delicious non-alcoholic drinks. You know, the max amount of drinks that I actually like mindfully enjoying on any given night is really 2. After that, I love sipping on something that's good, but doesn't have to be filled with alcohol.
Exactly. Same here. We honor what our bodies tell us, but we love a yummy cocktail. And that's why we absolutely love Damrak Gin. They are the first global gin brand to make both alcoholic and non-alcoholic versions of their gins with 17 botanicals included. Although it wasn't easy to create, their virgin gin tastes just like the real thing with carefully extracted flavors without losing their unique Damrak taste.
Damrak is an authentic Amsterdam gin brand. They pride themselves on being a true Amsterdammer with their beverages being distilled right in the heart of Amsterdam.
I love Amsterdam.
Can we just go visit?
Yes.
They're proud but accessible, clever and genuine, and edgy but yet deep down smooth and charming, like me. So if you're going to hate me saying this, but it's damn tasty in a gin and tonic served with a slice of orange or 2.
Head to damrakgin.com and use the code IGNITED, IGNTD, all capital, for 10% off your order.
Go get it. All right, everybody, welcome back. We got a dear friend with us here today, Jessica Jeboult. How are you doing, Jessica?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. For context for everybody, you are currently sitting in the hottest weather Canada has had, well, Vancouver in particular has had in recorded history, right?
Yeah. It is
Awesome.
literally about 100 degrees at 5:30 this morning. Today is supposed to be the hottest day. I think it's supposed to get up to 120 in the city.
Wow.
And
And for those of
it
you
is
watching on video,
loony.
Jessica is covered in ice packs, which looks weird, but we're gonna carry through this this interview. We're gonna make it good. I
AC
remember
is my
being in New
friend.
York. I remember being in New York. My parents used to live there, and like in
Yeah.
the dead of summer, it would sometimes be 100, 105 degrees at like midnight,
Yeah.
1 a.m. So you'd go out in like shorts and a tank top because you couldn't handle. So yeah, the days are just insane. You were saying people are selling air conditioners for $1,500.
It's well, no one. Okay, so Vancouver, all the buildings, even some of the newer ones don't have air conditioning. Like they don't have central AC or they don't have like units built in because it doesn't actually get this hot. Like you don't really need it. So on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, there have been bidding wars and people are just like 1,500 to 2,000. I saw one go for AC units.
Well, talk about the
Yeah,
law of supply and demand.
I know, but it's kind of I don't know. I had this issue yesterday. So I went to go get my friend and her kids an AC unit. And the guy advertised them for $350 to $600 depending on, how big and powerful it is.
Yeah.
I get there and they're $1,000 to $1,100. And they're used, mind you, like old, like off-white, like yellowing old ass units.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, bro, what are you doing? Like this is not cool. Like this is not good karma. Like
Yeah.
at all. And
Yeah.
like how can you have that kind of conscience and like be okay with taking that money? Like money is energy, like everything is energy, and like just straight up taking advantage of people. And
Well, look, I learned.
uh,
I have the following belief: people do get what they want in life, like the thing they really really crave and want. As long as they're willing to do some work for it, you can get
yeah,
it. It just doesn't always look the way you wanted it to look or the way you thought it would look. So if you really care about money more than anything else in the universe, there are
yeah,
ways to get it. Um, it doesn't mean everything else works the way you want it to, though, right? You can end up with you can end up with
true.
$1,200 in air conditioner and all your neighbors hating you,
Yeah,
or less money. And honestly, I've stopped judging people for which one of those directions they want to go in. Everybody
yeah,
has to learn their lessons. For all we know, this dude was he's not really, but like for all we know, this guy was homeless and broke, and then like took air conditioners away from friends to pay for this. I never know people's story, but here's
okay,
here's the thing that I hear there really really strongly that I am so like fully supportive of is those of us who are in the caring for others world, we can't fathom who really like if we really are people who care, right? There are people who pretend, but if you really really care, we can't fathom taking advantage of somebody for when they're vulnerable and in pain. um,
totally,
and
totally.
I think that's something that's one of the things I love about working in this field and
Mhm.
helping people who struggle is they run into a lot of other people who are trying to take advantage of them, including some treatment
Yeah.
centers and blah blah whatever,
Oh yeah.
because it's kind of like show me the money in the end. um, and that's why I loved since we connected this concept of, okay, well, how do I bring the most benefit to the people? And then
Yeah.
we sort of have this implicit trust that if I just do a good enough job, the money will somehow show up. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But you and I, money is not at the forefront. It's not the thing we care about more than anything else. So we can't fathom charging somebody $1,200 for a used AC,
Totally.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I was just like, I thank you for bringing up that perspective because I was just like, how could you do this? Like, how could you take advantage of people? Like, your karma is going to be horrible. But
yeah.
yeah, actually, I don't know where he's coming from. I don't know what his actual circumstances are to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And we don't unless we have the conversation, which
Yeah.
brings me to the part that I really want to talk about here today, because
Yeah.
you know me and you know my work and I know yours. And obviously in this sobriety, sober curious, addiction, alcohol struggles space, there are a lot of voices, maybe a lot more definitely than there were a decade ago, let's say.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago, there was almost none of this happening.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of different voices. Yours is one, mine is one. There's a ton of them, right? Sober Mom, Annie Grace, Tempest, Holly, all these people.
Yeah.
Um, and you know that one of my stances is that so many of us, the part I dislike sometimes about the sober curious movement is that it still pretends that alcohol is the problem, whereas alcohol is not the problem, never has been the problem, never will be the problem. So it's really nice for you to figure out how to stop drinking.
Mhm.
But unless you figure out how to stop drinking in a way that also improves and fixes all the things in your life that made you want to drink, the end result will not be quite as good as you want it to. Quite like that guy, right, who wants the $1,200 for the air conditioner. He might get it. He just might have no friends in the process.
Yes.
And you mentioned something, and it's the end of Pride Month. So I don't know that this will actually come out during Pride Month, but I think this will be
Yeah.
a really important, powerful story for a lot of people. You mentioned something you were thinking about or wondering about as Pride Month ends that has to do with your sobriety. And I'd love for you to mention that to our listeners.
Yeah, totally. Actually, it kind of took me off guard, actually.
Yeah.
I was having another conversation on another podcast, and we were talking about sexuality and how like our coming out stories and stuff like that. And actually, not a lot of people know that I am gay at all. And I don't know why, like obviously everyone knows that I'm sober. That is a
Mm.
huge, proud, powerful moment. That is something that I stepped into, fully embraced, you know, that it just is, right? Like now it's like second skin. Um, but talking about your sexuality and how you identify, um, I guess the gay aspect of me is not fully integrated. And
So the moment you said that before
yeah,
we talked, do you know what phrase came up in my head?
what?
Fuck shame was the first thing that came up in my head. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
and the reason I didn't want to even talk more and I just wanted to get in this is what I heard, because I didn't know you were gay. And
What?
I didn't. And we've had a bunch of
Oh,
interactions. Um, and I
see
don't know
how
if
I
there
just
was
pocket that away?
what I don't know. And it's what's interesting about it is, and by the way, I don't know that you never said it. It just wasn't prominent enough for
Yeah,
me to integrate it into who I saw you as, right?
interesting.
Um, and and when you mentioned that it was a pretty recent realization you had that there was a connection there,
Yeah,
what it brought up for me was this is exactly one of those things I talk about all the time. They're not always easy to find, but it ignited our first principles, honest exploration.
mhm,
Who are you? What's going on with you? And what brought you here? And I have to think that if for somebody who's as easy as being, who has an easier time being public and upfront about their alcohol struggles and successes,
yeah,
that there's something about this part of who you are that not just now, because now it's coming out and this is the good part.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
10, 15, 20 years ago,
Ooh,
this was like, oh fuck, I can't, nobody can know about this shit. I gotta put this thing under guard. I gotta fucking keep this secret for the rest of my life. I feel like that's where this went back then. And the reason I think this can be so powerful for people is everybody has this shit. They just don't know what it is yet. And
yeah,
that's what I love helping people find is what are you hiding from? The moment you have to stop hiding, the moment you can let yourself be who you are, drinking's not a fucking issue. I swear. So I'd love to
totally.
understand what was that process for you around when did you find out you were gay? Let's start there.
Yeah, okay. This is a very interesting story. So in high school, I didn't know there was another option. I literally had no idea, like being gay was an option. We had lesbian neighbors, and I'm like, oh, like that sounds fun, like living with your friend. Like, okay, but like when are you guys gonna grow up and like have husbands? Because this couldn't
Because
be
that was the given.
forever.
Everybody had to get a husband.
Yes. That was the only thing that I knew. My family never talked about sexuality or your identity or anything like that. And not because it was maybe hidden. I just don't think my parents had the tools or knew themselves how to deal with that, or if that would be an option for me. So I think just right off the bat, not even talking about it, not even it being an option, felt shameful, felt wrong, because it wasn't even an option, right?
Even before you knew what it was, something about it
Yes.
felt wrong because you
Yeah,
saw it, but nobody was talking about it. I love that.
totally. And like it was bad. Like, my mom wanted me to grow up and have a family and have a boyfriend and then a husband and then kids, right? This whole A, B, C, and D.
Fit into the categories the way they're normally told, right?
Yeah, like she did, and like her mom did, and my great grandma before her. That's just what everyone did and everyone knew. So when I guess the L word came out when I
Remember
was,
when?
yeah, it was like 20, no, I would have been 18. So, oh God, now you're gonna make me do math and date myself.
Oh no, you don't have to. You don't have to like.
I
You
want to
were
say at least like
like you were in high school.
17 years ago. Yeah, I was in high school. I was in grade 11 or 12.
Okay.
Grade 12. Yes. And so the L word would come on, and I would obviously like sneak downstairs to watch it, like basically on mute so no one heard, because if anyone's ever watched the L word, it's very graphic and lots of like sex scenes and heavy breathing. So right then you got to mute that stuff.
You have it did you have it like, because that when I watched porn when I was a kid, it would be on super low volume.
Yeah.
I would make sure there's like two doors between me and the people.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
Yes.
because I would need to hear the first door open and have enough time to turn the thing off
Yep.
and then pretend like I was doing something else. Because what the fuck are you doing in the room?
Totally. Like,
Totally.
and why
Okay.
is it dark? Like,
Love it. Okay, so that was your jam. So you're
yeah,
kind of paying attention, you're listening, um, but it's hidden, and that's shame. Like I felt that shame around watching porn. For you, the L word.
totally. Total shame. And like, thank God we lived in an old character house, so you could hear someone like down the stairs. Like,
Sure, sure, sure.
you weren't creeping around. But like, even that, like putting it on mute and just like, oh God, I hope no one finds out. Shame,
Mm.
shame, shame, shame. So the L word came out, and I'm just like, oh my God, like this is real. People do this. Okay. So me and my girlfriends go out for Halloween, and we go to this bar that we always go to, and we're underage at the time, so we have to. One of my girlfriends was actually dating the doorman. That's why we were going to this bar.
Got it.
And he's like, yeah, it's really interesting in there tonight. And it's literally on Halloween night. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We get inside, and it is wall to wall ladies.
Mm.
And I'm like, holy shit, what is this? And I had no idea like lesbians had their own parties. I had no clue. And so my friends were like, this is disgusting. We're leaving.
And you're like, wait, no, 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 no. I really want to stay.
I stayed.
Mm.
I was just like, oh, I made up some excuse like, oh, I don't think I'm going to get into another bar, so I'll just stay here. But like having your friends, and that would also definitely affect my decisions and secrecy, I guess, in the future. But having your friends say, this is disgusting.
Oh, oh my
Like,
God.
so I'm disgusting is what you're saying.
Parents won't talk about this stuff. It's taboo.
Hmm.
You cannot talk about the fact that there are two women living across the street and they're not getting married. What the fuck is that about?
Yeah.
We walk into a bar that I'm like, I'm psyched. There are all these cute girls here.
Yeah.
I want to spend like the next 12 hours in this spot. And your friends
Yeah.
go, this is disgusting.
Disgusting. And they left right away. Like, this is wrong.
Now, the
So
girl's boyfriend is still the doorman. So you're at the, does that factor
yeah.
in at all? Like, are you kind of like trying to be sneaky, or once they left, you were like, buy me
No,
some bacon?
he was at the door, and I was just meandering by myself.
And I'm imagining, how old are you now?
18.
So I've gone to gay bars. Like when I was a kid, I bar backed, and then eventually I bartended, and I used to play music in bars. And when we ended up in like a gay club or a bar,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're 18, 19 years old, you get hit on like the world is your oyster,
You're
right?
catnip. You
So
are
you
catnip.
are catnip, literally. So was that what that experience was like for you?
Exactly. However, I ended up getting a girlfriend from that night.
Wow.
And then I ended up being with her for 2 years. Like, so typically, like, I was a stereotypical U-Haul lesbian.
You got to explain that term to me.
So apparently when lesbians get together, it's like within weeks you're renting a U-Haul and you're just moving in together.
The opposite, right? Like, so, there's so many stereotypes here. We're just going to go into them, and you can help me correct myself whenever I'm wrong.
Oh yeah.
One of my best friends in high school, by the way, was gay. She ended up trans, but
Oh cool.
so it was really cool. I grew up, half my friend group was gay in high school, which later when I was like 19 made me question my sexuality. I'm like, why does nobody else have 4 or 5 gay friends? And I like half my friends are gay. Am I gay? And actually took me on this weird ride for like 12 years.
Wow.
Turns out I might be bi. I just never had any sexual relations with a man, but like,
Yeah.
but I haven't written that off. But
Yeah.
it's Sophie and I have talked about this quite a few times. So I've been on the questioning side of things before, but I've had
what stopped you? Like what has
I had not actually back in the day when I was using a lot of drugs, and like Molly, like two guys that in two completely different occasions that were interested in me kissed me, and it didn't do it. And I was like, if it didn't do it on Molly,
odds
are I'm really not that into it. But anyway, I think one of the things, like I'm a guy that has no problem seeing and admitting that other men are really attractive, and I think that's really taboo in our world. So I think that's where the questioning came. But the reason I was just saying that is I never heard the term U-Haul lesbian, which I love. But you got your first night in a place where being gay was okay, girls hitting on you left and right, and you landed a 2-year girlfriend.
Yeah. And so I was like seeing this girl, I take into account I was only 18 and she was 26, always going after the cougars. Yeah, so I was seeing this girl, and then you know, a couple months into it, I decided to tell my mom. And I was freaking terrified. Sure. So I wrote her a note and I said, hey, you know, I think I was calling him like Jim or something. Like full on lie, like full on, like made up a name, made up like all this stuff.
That you were in a relationship.
Yeah. That I was seeing a guy. And so I wrote her a note because I just couldn't face her. I couldn't even actually get the words out. I didn't even know what to say to her. So I wrote her a note and I said, hey, Jim is not really who I've been seeing. It's actually Trina, I think was her name. And yeah, I like girls. Well, that was not well received.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, at the time, it's definitely gotten better.
Oh yeah.
But at the time,
how
like,
old are you, 19?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. So during that time, like a little backstory, my mom my parents had gotten divorced. My dad was just really horrible, like super abusive to our whole family. My
Mm.
youngest brother lost both of his eyes. He was blind. And like we were also worried about like my middle brother because he was a little bit like slow on the uptake. And so my mom was just sitting there thinking like, fuck, like I'm
She was
divorced.
counting on you.
Yeah.
She was counting on you to just
Just
make
be
her life
normal.
okay.
Yeah. Just pull it
Oh,
through.
fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause this for a second because this is like there are people listening right now who just realize there's shit they're fucking hiding from, and they're like, God damn it, I have to. This is the fucking thing I have to go after. And I tell people this
Yeah.
all the time. When your life is like the class you hated in high school, and all you want is a hall pass. And what
Yeah.
I'm hearing is you were living this double life for months, maybe even a year, lying to your mom about who you're dating, which means every day you feel like shit all day, just feeling like shit about
Yeah.
yourself, about your family, plus all this other, we just glossed over it, but all this other terrible shit's happening. Your dad's abusive for years,
Yeah.
um, unhappy home anyway. I don't know what happened to your brother, but that sounds like a
Yeah.
terrifying experience by itself. So, like,
Yeah.
life is like a version of hell, at least, um, from some early developmental. I don't know how young that started with your dad, but like from a pretty early age,
Yeah.
and which probably doesn't make you exactly feel warm towards family and traditional family anyway. Like there's so much fucking going on in this, and now um, you come out and you're like, I'm gonna let people see my mom, let her see who I really am, and the answer is like
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Like I just don't, she just didn't have like the capacity, to deal with it. And
It's kind of
I
crazy because
get
like
it.
she didn't actually have anything to deal with. If we're just honest about it,
I
it was
know.
your thing to deal with,
Yeah.
not her thing to deal. And I'm not judging her for it. I'm just saying
Yeah.
I get like parents just have these dreams for their kids, and then they project them onto it. The way I talk about it Ignited all the time, they hand you a book of like, hey, here's how you should live life.
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't work, we go, what the fuck is wrong with me? But it's not us. It's the book was written by them for them. It's not our
Yeah.
book.
Totally. And I think that's exactly what she was doing. Like she was afraid that life, obviously she has a blind kid. She sees how hard life is for him, right? And then she's like, okay, now my daughter is gay. Like life is going to be so hard for her. Like, as a mom and a parent, you're like, oh my God, like just, I want my kid to have the path of least resistance. I want them to like be safe and just be okay in this world.
But I think the important thing that you said that, which is it's true, but maybe it gets conflated and confused sometimes. The path of least resistance doesn't mean the path of no resistance,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
it's the same as the
Yeah.
powerlessness concept to me. Like when I tell people they're not powerless, people think that I pretend everybody can do anything they want and have complete power. I'm like, no, no, no. There's a
Yeah.
place between God and completely powerless, and it's the gray area in between. You have a bunch of power over some things, you have no power over other things, you have a small amount of power in some areas. For you, the experience of having to go through revealing who you are, that you've been shamed for
Mm,
being internally, externally, etc., just created more shame and more reason to hide instead of
yeah.
showing you, you know what? Look, this is going to be a difficult route, but it's who you are. So
Yeah.
let's make it as easy as we can make it, which is what the path of least resistance really means.
Totally. Yeah. So I ended up moving in with my girlfriend, obviously, U-Haul. And I was so young. Like looking back on it, I was so young. Like 19 years old, 20 years old. Like that is, oh, just a baby.
Yeah.
Um, but it felt so good, to be in this relationship and be kind of like on my own. And I was pretty used to fending for myself because my parents were preoccupied with my little brother, who was blind, who needed all the attention. So, yes, I ended up then moving to LA. That relationship obviously ran its course. And then I was just like, I got to get out of here. So moving to LA was really amazing and really powerful, and made me feel like I belong. Like I found a whole bunch of people that were gay as well, and definitely hung out at the Abbey a lot. Yeah. But
When
it
did you move to
also,
LA? How long ago?
when I was like 22, 23.
Okay. So the Abbey
So,
was already this like
oh,
big
it was
place with
full
dancers on
swing.
the weekend and all this stuff.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So that was like really cool to be in, but like that environment, God, I mean, it just, a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking all the time.
So again, let me just pause because
Yeah.
I want to go back to that fuck shame. Now, looking at it, and as you're kind of opening up and seeing these connections across all these different things in life, and maybe having some thinking about what this journey, because that's quite a freaking journey you've been on.
Yeah.
Does it seem to you like the reason the scene was attractive, or the reason the drinking and the drugs were attractive, was partially because even though you could logically understand that being shamed in this way and being told that lesbians are disgusting, and being ignored or being told by your mom, no, you can't, this is not good for you, um
Yeah.
that finally being in a place that where other people don't live that way, the logical understanding of it is great, but
Yeah.
internally you still feel pretty shitty about where
Totally.
things got you?
Yeah, of course. I felt like, I mean, pride is always like a touchy subject for me because I don't think I'm like 100% proud
Which is, I think, by
of
the way,
it.
why the word was
Just
co-opted.
really hard. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to be proud of something that you still have. I mean, I definitely still have some residual shame about it. Um, but it's so much easier to work through when you're sober. But everyone who was gay, and I felt like I belonged with them, and it felt really good. I felt like I definitely had to drink and keep up and party, and that's just like what all my gay friends did.
But I'm wondering, even like on a basic level. So, do you know Alexandra Roxo? Do you know who she is?
No.
She's a friend of ours, and she's like a sexual educator,
Oh
sexual.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Red hair.
yeah. She's
Yes,
amazing.
yes, yes.
Yeah. So when I first started hanging out with Alexandra, I'm a
Yeah.
very sexual being, but the words she uses, right? Like freely in mid sentence, she's talking to Sophie or whatever. She's like, you really have to own your pussy. And like, I remember, like, grew up on porn. Like, I started watching porn at 11. It was a problem. Like,
Yeah.
there was an issue for me. So you would think it wouldn't be a problem hearing those words, but there was so much shame attached to the
Ah.
language that I could like it internally, but I'd feel bad about liking it. And the reason I'm part of what I'm asking about the
Yeah.
sexuality, just to be clear, like when you'd find somebody attractive or you want to go hook up with a woman, was there a block for you where you were like, I I want to do this, but I feel like shit for
Mm.
wanting to do it. So if I drink, I don't feel as shitty for wanting it, and then I can really be in the experience.
Um, no.
Okay.
I don't think that like affected my relationships. However, I did like look at my relationships as like conquests,
Mm.
which is probably something else. But I think it was more about the community. Like for
It
me,
was
like
there.
I just really wanted friends, and I wanted like a support system. I really wanted to
You wanted to fit
feel,
in.
yeah, like I wanted to feel heard and understood.
And when you used and drank, you could connect more because that's what the people were doing.
Totally.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Love it.
So I had those friendships. I had, that mutual bond between us. Um, I don't think I really felt, I don't think I felt shameful for like actually being in a relationship with another woman because actually, mm, when I was drinking, like deep in the dark of it, I was also hooking up with guys to try and like, okay, maybe I'm not super gay. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I
So
can
there
just
was
suck it
something.
up.
So
There
there was
was
something
something.
because
Yeah.
I hear from the other end. Look, I've talked to definitely upwards of 1,000 people at this point around their alcohol and drug struggles, and I
Yeah.
hear oftentimes, primarily gay men, is the following story I hear from, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen in others. I just don't hear it as much. That they grew up knowing they were gay in an environment where being gay was not okay, and for men
Yeah.
in like highly conservative, think Republican, think Southern states, it's like, I mean, you can get the shit kicked out of you. Like,
Get
there's
killed.
a violence
Yeah.
component to people finding out you're gay.
Yeah.
And so I would hear from a lot of men that they would drink so that they could hook up with girls, so they could fool around with girls, so they could have a
Yeah.
girlfriend, because they had zero interest in it. But if they got drunk enough, they could just fool around and
Yeah.
not really care as much. And it was like a tool they use to pretend to be straight.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing for you maybe that there was a little bit of that at some
Yeah.
point.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mm.
And actually like progressed like as I got older and as I was drinking more, I felt I don't know, maybe it was this like internal clock too that like okay, and maybe like back in the back of my mind, like the lesbians growing up, like when are you guys gonna grow up and find husbands? Like
Yeah.
when are you gonna
Like, okay, I've
playing
played
house?
around, but I gotta grow up.
Yeah, got to get
Oh,
serious about your life. Like where do you see this going?
and this is,
Like
again,
it's
I'm
so
happy we're having this
silly.
I'm happy we're having this conversation during Pride Month, um, because I think that is the reason why the word pride is the word that got chosen, right?
Yeah,
For centuries, people were killed, isolated, ostracized,
yeah,
shamed, made to feel like they're sick, like they have a problem, like they need to be fixed. By the
mhm,
way, not all that fucking different than the alcoholic kind of bullshit we're talking about. So we
yeah,
can put that to the side for a second. But this has to do, you just talked about procreation and having kids, and that was
yeah,
always the reason. It was like, hey, you got to get a husband because you got to make kids, because that's your only job as a woman, right? Like
yes,
that's what sits in the middle of all of that. Hey, if you don't have a husband and you don't have kids, why do you matter? Is like
exactly.
the patriarchal kind of idea. And
Yeah,
so that came out for you when you were here, actually in an environment where you could be, I guess, more natural, more go 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 with your instincts in a more natural way. It still came back.
yeah. I think also, I was a DJ, so I worked in a very straight dude, like industry, right? And it's like with girls who were DJing, they were super like over sexualized. Like one girl DJ'd with electrical tape on her nipples, and that's it.
Probably worked as a gimmick too.
Oh yeah.
back to the air ba-
Absolutely.
back to the air conditioner guy who was selling it for $1,200. She
Yeah,
probably got gigs because of that. You don't necessarily know that she got the gigs she wanted or got
yeah,
treated the way she wanted to, but she got
yeah.
gigs.
Oh, she got gigs for sure.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, how am I supposed to be? It was also kind of like I wasn't gay enough to be with like the gay people, but then I wasn't straight enough to be with the straight people. Like I wasn't like girly enough, or it was like this weird limbo. So when I would drink, like I would just be everyone's best friend.
Yeah.
Like I would literally forget who I was or who I was like supposed to be or what
Yeah. Or
outfit
who
I was supposed to
exactly
wear.
who you felt you had to be for other people to like you just went out the window,
Yes.
which is the fucking point. Like, this is the point. The point
Yeah.
is nobody gives a fuck who you are.
Yeah.
Stop pretending to be what you think other people want you to be, because the people who are attracted to that version of you are not your fucking friends anyway. They're not your
No.
people anyway. You don't want them in your fucking life. They just make you feel like shit. Be yourself as close to 100% of the time as you can. And here's the incredible thing that ends up happening. The only people in your life are the people who like you because everybody else fucking left.
Exactly.
And then you
And
get to
that's
live the life you
terrifying
want.
though. It's yes. And I love, I mean, obviously I have done that now. Like being sober has definitely helped me do that, made it easier. But at the time, like I was just so afraid to be alone. I was also full of shame to be alone
Yeah,
because being alone meant you were a loser and no one liked you and no one wanted to hang out with you.
I know that feeling.
So I had all this like, fuck, like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna drink. And you know what? Whoever I become best friends with at the bar, like that's I guess who I'm gonna be friends with.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just like a
I think,
lost puppy.
yeah, I think a lot of people relate to this, right? It's,
Yeah.
I'm not really good enough inside. So let me get drunk enough so that I don't care who I have to be for these people.
Yes.
And I'll go all in. Um,
Yes.
wow. First
I'm
of
a
all,
good performer. I am like the monkey with the cymbals. I will put on a show for you.
uh, well, first of all, I
Yeah.
want to thank you. I want to thank you for being willing to just be so transparent and honest here. I feel
Yeah.
like there's no better lesson for people to honestly explore what's going on for them. And I think exploration is key. If you don't know what the real problem is, you're never going to solve it.
Yeah.
Um, and and then to see that there's another way out, right? Like here you are, maybe it caused a ton of shame for years, but here you are talking publicly about it,
Yeah.
which is that's so important in the end. It's that's why people always, not always, sometimes people kind of get pissed at me for living publicly. And I said, you know what? I
Hmm.
get it,
Yeah.
totally get it. I'm doing it on purpose. And the
Yeah.
reason is I want people to know you can be an ex meth addict and have a totally normal life later.
Yeah.
I drink, for instance, and that's just part of my story. Um, you don't have to, but
Yeah.
like I just want to show people what's possible, and I want to expose as many stories as possible because all somebody needs is to identify. Oh, I want to be like her. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now you've got a path to follow. But like there are a lot. Your story is powerful because there are a lot of other people who are right now drinking
Hmm.
because they're gay,
Yeah.
unable to come out, or came out and got rejected. I mean, coming out and becoming homeless is one of the main reasons for teen homelessness.
Yep.
And you
Oh
just think
yeah.
about that for a fucking second. Like somebody came out, told the world who they are, and their family, my friend, that friend from high school, got thrown out of her house for months.
Ugh.
And it's
Yeah.
heartbreaking. And then it gets you, and then you wonder why people end up using drugs.
Exactly, right? Like to feel that pain, to like just make it stop because it's so hurtful. It really is. It's funny you say that because I volunteered at the LA Gay and Lesbian Center, and all of the kids there come from well-to-do families, most of them. A lot like in Orange County or and stuff like that, and they were kicked out because of their sexual orientation and their how they identify. Like putting your baby on a street. I just I I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I
By the way, those are parents that are damaged too, right? They're parents who've been so indoctrinated to like
yeah.
there's a single way of being, and if you're not that, you're not worthy.
Yep.
Um, oof. So
Yeah.
you're out, you're using, you're drinking, you're DJing.
Yes.
What happened, and at what point were you like, "Fuck, I can't live like this anymore"?
Well, I think maybe the my first rock bottom is I got pregnant. So that's pretty hard for someone who identifies as a lesbian and a very public lesbian to get pregnant. So that was really scary. You think that would have slowed me down, but it didn't. Actually, my anxiety and depression got so bad that I actually couldn't go to work. I couldn't do gigs. And I was so anxious. Like I literally couldn't stand up there for 20 seconds to change the song without my hands just like shaking, and I just couldn't do it. I felt like I was going to be sick. I felt like my I was gonna run out of my body. Like you're gonna run out of your own skin. Like it's such a horrible feeling. Like everything in your body is moving so fast, and you're just trying to like just be still, and it won't work. Nothing will work. So I wasn't able to work, and being a DJ, that was my only job, and I was living on my own. I had
The
no
problem
one.
also
Like I didn't have parents to play for my stuff. Like
yeah, and when you
yeah,
DJ, when you stop taking gigs, you stop being asked to do gigs, which is a nightmare.
exactly. Yep. So you literally have to keep this cycle going. And I could see, I'm like, okay, this is how I could end up homeless, like 100%. So I kind of did, I guess, like an inventory of my life, and I'm like, what am I actually waking up to look forward to? Like, why am I actually waking up at all? To be honest, which is a really hard question to ask yourself.
Yeah.
And I was just on autopilot all the time. I wasn't doing things that I even enjoyed. I wasn't hanging out with people that I enjoyed. I was literally just doing it because I had to, and I felt obligated to. Because if I didn't hang out with these certain friends who all we did was drink copious amounts of wine and talk shit about everyone, even our friends. Like that's just so toxic and just ugh. Yeah. So like nothing, all my relationships in my life sucked. I didn't like DJing. I was just doing it for the money. And if you're just doing anything for the money, it's pretty draining.
Yeah.
So that I was single. I wasn't meeting anyone because I was always working. I was in nightclubs, and I didn't want to meet someone who was in a nightclub. So literally I was doing everything that I didn't want to do. Right? Like I was not setting myself up for any kind of success. I was just going on autopilot.
Yeah. Which is such a familiar story for so many people, right? Literally,
Yeah.
like living through their nightmare and then wondering, like, why am I drinking and using drugs all the time? Like, well, because you live in your hell. That's why.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so when I started kind of, dissecting these little parts of my life, I'm like, actually, like alcohol doesn't fit into this equation. Like alcohol doesn't make me happy. It doesn't help my life in any way. It actually really amps up my anxiety and my depression, like really, really bad. My depression was really seriously horrible. So I just I tried to take a break from drinking, and then I just kept going. It just kind of clicked, and I had tried to stop drinking I was in and out of AA for 10 years.
Yeah. Right. So
Yeah.
here again, right back to the point, like it wasn't even the drinking. You took a break from drinking.
Yeah.
But exploration, you sat down and you're like, what the fuck is happening in my life? And you're like, oh, I hate my life. I got to make a change.
Yeah.
And you just decided that the change you wanted to make was drinking. My guess is when you stopped drinking in that way, did you also stop hanging out with a lot of those people that just drank all the time?
I literally
Cut it off.
cut everything. Yeah. I couldn't do it. And especially when I was sober, I had zero tolerance for bullshit. And that's all it was.
Yeah.
And literally the same dramatic crap, like over and over again. I felt like I was going nuts.
Yeah.
And like when I tell you dramatic stuff happened all the time, like I'm talking police at the door once a week, like just outrageous, people cheating on each other in the most scandalous
with other friends and like
yes.
No, it's totally. I mean, it's always funny to me, like, and everybody knows this, alcohol, drugs or not, like, the people are always having crazy shit happen in their life. are massively inviting it in. It's very,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
pretty easy to cut that shit out.
yeah,
You just have to want to actually live in your reality. So,
yes,
so you sat down, you made this analysis, and then again, right? You cut the drinking out, but what you cut out was the shitty friends.
yeah.
Cut out the, did you stop DJing too, or did you go back to DJing? You
I went
stopped.
back to school. That's when I kind of started Sober Girls Guide.
Got it.
That also helped me like be accountable and focus on something that felt good
Yeah.
and felt positive and was like empowering. I'm like, oh, actually, like I really enjoy this and I'm good at this. This
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started that and I literally changed everything.
Yeah.
I had to.
Yeah. So here's my point, and you and I we don't disagree on this, but we just have different end paths, which is great. Like we don't all need to live the same life. Let's just be fucking clear about that.
Yeah.
Everybody listening right now, the goal is for you to find the life that makes you happy and makes you not want to go into a bottle to escape from it. And then you're good.
Yes.
It doesn't need to look like mine, it doesn't need to look like Jessica's, but if listening to this kind of story is inspiring, then the inspiration is this. Things got so bad, right? Everybody says this phrase in AA, like you got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Um,
Yeah.
it's just that what I need everybody to understand is once that happens, you have to get into action. So I think
Yes.
there are a couple of honest exploration is the first step. You did a lot of that. Um,
Oh yeah.
we just talk about it here, but like you sitting and making that list
Yeah.
is like what is happening in my life right now? Why am I even supposed to do anything? Oh shit, I'm not. I hate everything I'm doing. I need to change it.
Yeah.
Then something happened. I believe that the second part before action, because you may change, but the second part to me is acceptance. Like
Yes.
we have to understand where we are and how we got here and then go, oh fuck, okay, I'm here. I can
Yeah.
hate it, I can wish it were different, but I'm here and it's not going away unless I do something about it. Unless I like
Totally.
running away from our reality all just results in more escapism and all that kind of stuff. We have to accept. Do you remember that happening as you were making the list in some way?
100%. I think actually when I admitted to myself that I was depressed and that I hated DJing, which everyone thought was so cool.
Everybody thinks it's the best job ever. Drug
Yeah.
dealing. Everybody's like, oh my God, that must be so fun. Like, yeah, it's fucking great.
Yeah, it's
People who are
fun.
addicted to drugs hitting you up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day and knocking on your door randomly. And the police
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
being after you. It's a wonderful job.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so all these things that I, just ignored for so long. And I'm like, you know what? I am very depressed. And I thought that that was me. I always thought that admitting that I would be, I don't know, like less than maybe, or like that I was damaged or that I just couldn't get a hold of myself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
So admitting that and actually taking care of it, like having steps to like remedying that situation.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh,
But admitting it, then it's like all the secrets and the lies that I kept up in here and kept this like facade going. It's like they all just kind of like melted down and melted like out my feet.
yep. Yeah. I always tell people this when you've gone through exploration and acceptance, the work is actually great to do.
Yeah.
Because
And I do it all the time. Like it's an ongoing cycle.
all the time.
Yeah.
Because you want to change the things that aren't working. It's just that you've been hiding from the things that aren't working for so fucking long. You forgot they're not working. And you talk
Totally.
yourself into believing that's the best life you could create, but it's actually really shitty. And the moment you come to terms with that and understand what about it you don't like, you get excited to do the work because now
Totally.
the work you're doing is about the things you want to change. And I think this is really, really key for everybody to hear.
But it also gets quicker too. Like it's like it doesn't I guess like how do I explain this? Like, you know, maybe sometimes I would convince myself like, oh, this is the right thing to do, or this is like good, but like my maybe it's
Your bullshit
intuition.
meter is just quicker now.
Yeah, it's so much quicker. It's way clearer.
Yeah.
And I can course correct way quicker.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you a question. We only have a couple of minutes left, but I want to understand this because we started this because you don't talk that publicly about the fact that you're gay, while you
Yeah.
do talk very publicly about the fact that you're sober. So here's
Yes.
the question I have.
Yeah.
You used alcohol, drugs a lot when you were in the community,
Yeah.
partially at least because that's what the community was doing. But
Yes.
do you feel like maybe there's a part to this next phase for you where owning fully who you are in all ways
Yeah.
will be the shedding of another layer of shame that is still ingrained from your earlier childhood around whether being gay is okay?
Oh, totally. And I think, I mean, there's still definitely a lot of work to do because I think my whole self-worth is wrapped up in that label.
Yeah.
You know, even just like the stereotypes of what lesbians physically look like.
Yeah.
Like I felt so ugly most of my life. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really working on that, and I've actually done a lot of work over the last year and a bit.
Mm.
You know, to go back into that childhood, those childhood scenarios, and just really embrace and take in, you know, that inner child and tell her it's okay. Like this isn't about you, but it is all about you. You can be all about you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely feel like I'm on the pathway, and thank you for, you know, having this space to talk about it. I definitely feel better, even just having this conversation with you.
Mm.
But yeah, there's still a couple layers to peel back for sure, but
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I'm on my way. It doesn't feel like a curse anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's so amazing when we have, again, thank you for feeling safe to have the conversation. It's so amazing. I see this all the time, how different we view ourselves, how differently we view ourselves and other people see us.
Yeah.
And when you were just talking, I just heard this. So I just want to say it out loud so it's not in my head.
Huh.
The closer you get and the freer you get to just be 100% who you are.
Mm.
Check in the words that you're using about yourself. Always, you're already doing this in so many different ways, but always just laying it all out there, even to be able to say to people what we're doing right now, which is like, fuck, I don't know why the hell I hide from people that I'm gay. Like just saying that
Yeah.
instead of pretending like you already know the answer, like you always have to be perfect.
Yeah.
So empowering. We're imperfect beings. We're always going to be imperfect. We don't need to be perfect. Nobody around us is perfect.
Yeah.
And when we put up a facade that we know everything and we're the best at everything, we make other people feel like they have to do the same shit, which means
Totally.
either they love us enough that they really want to try and then we just fuck them up while we're fucking ourselves up,
Yeah.
or they don't like us enough and they're like, fuck you, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
You're a piece of shit. So one way or another, just being vulnerable and saying to people, shit, you know what? I've known you for years. You knew I was sober. I didn't know, you didn't know that I was lesbian. Like
Yeah.
that alone is such a nice thing. Just because,
Surprise.
well, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like people love us the most. The people who love us the most when we're our most authentic self.
Totally. And it's funny that you say that because like I'm in this relationship now, and at the beginning there was definitely some struggles because I, like you said, I was just trying to be perfect and like at every single thing.
Mm.
You know, I wanted to be flawless and be on top of everything, say the right thing, do the right thing, like wear the right clothes when we saw each other. And that, do you know how much that created space between us?
Yeah, of course.
Like it wasn't bringing us together whatsoever.
No.
At all. And we broke up many times because of it.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to be with somebody who has to be perfect,
Yeah,
because they're not. And so
exactly.
you're either pointing
Yeah.
it out to them all the time, or you let it skate by, which makes you resentful.
Yep, exactly.
Mm.
So, and like the only reason like our relationship is working is because we're both like, oh, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. Cool. Let's be like not perfect together.
100%.
And it's like the best
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the best relationship ever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Jessica, just to take back to sobriety and recovery. I
Yeah.
know you help people who struggle in addictions, and you started training people who want to
Yeah.
help other people who do that with addictions. I love the training of other coaches that I do at Ignited. Tell us a little bit about how you do what you do.
Yeah. So I started a Sober Girls certification, guide certification program, and it's a business training as well. Um, because I had lots of inquiries, you know, when you get sober and you want to pay it forward, you want to help other people, how can you do that? And selfishly, my definition of success was to have people like on my team or have like people that I could employ. So I'm like, perfect. Let me train them. And then I'm only one person, I'm only one coach. I
Totally.
can't do it all. It's stupid to think that I can.
100%.
So, you know, training coaches and guides to do the method that I've created, and help more people and help it spread and
Where do
it's
people
been
find out
so
about it?
great. At a sobergirlsguide.com.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
Sobergirlsguide.com. We'll have the link below. Jessica, this was so amazing and powerful. Thank you for going deep with us.
Thank you.
I personally am happier and feel more connected to you knowing all these
Oh,
different aspects to you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for trusting me and trusting us with this.
well, thank you for being so open and asking really good questions.
This was one of my favorite interviews. Thank you again. Have an amazing, amazing week and
Thank
an
you.
end to Pride Month here in a couple of days.
Yes.
All right.
Amazing.
Everybody else, please do me a favor. If there's any episode with an interview you're going to do this on, please do it here. Screenshot it, tag Jessica and me. A Sober Girls Guide is Jessica's handle. And tag Ignite it and let us know what your biggest lessons from this is. I guarantee some of you listening right now have had some big ones, so I want to hear about them. Thank you, Jessica. This was amazing, amazing.
Thank you.
See the rest of you next week. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.